This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is the Monday Night Raw review for this Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. And let's just dive into Monday Night Raw and forgo all of the infomercial that I normally open the show with. Raw ended with the Judgment Day once again standing tall over Edge, once again targeting the leg, and also once again having Rey Mysterio show sympathy for his son. And I actually really enjoyed this. I bet you thought I was going to talk about something negative here. I really like this. And I like it because it does several things here for the story. It keeps Edge on a vengeful tour against a friend's son, where that Rey does not want to physically interject himself to defend his son, but also won't strike his son, yet hates the faction that he's in. And you also have Dominick himself, who is, I think, doing a nice job so far of being that kind of punk kid that you want to see somebody kick his teeth in. And I think they've done a nice job with that. And you were waiting for somebody, some white knight to come out and save the day, and it didn't happen. Rey Mysterio interjected himself, stopping Edge from presumably going for a spear, but that didn't make sense because Dominick was tied up in the ropes. So that was just nothing more than a spot to set up for Rey to interfere, even though there was no move that Edge could have actually done. You know what I mean? So, but it still had Dominick and Rhea and Finn and Damian all standing tall over Edge, and I kept waiting for someone, and we got nothing. We got silence, we got boos. And how many times has Raw or SmackDown gone off the air now with Triple H in charge and having the crowd booing? Anger is a money-drawing emotion, even if it doesn't feel like it at the beginning. Because even if you're angry when the show goes off the air, guess what you're going to want to do? You're going to want to tune in next week to see who can finally take these SOBs down and see them get what they deserve. Too often over the last 20 years, WWE felt the need to always give the payoff at the end of the show, leaving the crowd smiling and happy, foregoing or not really fully understanding the value in anger. The value in getting the crowd angry to get them to come to tune back in to see the baby faces or babyface overcome the obstacle and give the heel what they have coming. That's old school. That's a change in what Vince would be doing. I bet you anything Vince wouldn't be doing this right now. And Triple H just has a different vision, and I like this vision so far. On top of that, Dominick ends up giving a promo, but in a way that is less risky. It poses that element or removes the element of a live audience in having to deliver the promo in front of a live audience, the pressure of that in a very kind of green personality. Like, let's be honest, Dominick in the ring seems to be fairly fundamentally sound, but on the microphone is a whole different ballgame, and I've said that for many, many, many months. So that said, they did a nice job of having Dominick kind of explain why, and the production of that interview, whoever he was conducting it with, was excellent. The kind of just like a spotlight on his face, and it kind of zoomed in, very much focused on his facials, which were kind of a mix of glazed over anger and vengefulness in his voice. And I loved it. Basically saying that, you don't put me first, and I'm tired of bottling this up. I'm not going to, for a small man, I'm tired of standing in your shadow. That was a nice line. It's good. And of course there's a ton more material that they haven't even touched on with the Eddie Guerrero stuff back in 2004 and the custody thing. I mean, if they don't touch on that, that's been sitting there for years. It has to be drawn upon if they really want to dig that deep. I think eventually they will. And Dominick and Edge, I think, had a decent match. I mean, Dominick can hold his own. There's no doubt about it. And having Edge be the guy that's telling Ray, hey, I got to do what I got to do. Dominick told me he's a man now, and men have to pay for their decisions. And he told Ray, deep down, I'm right. But Ray's still coming to the defense of his son. By the way, Dominick is still not even looking at his father. I don't expect that to change in the near future. I think they're playing the long game with this. I really believe they're playing the long game, going all the way to Rumble/Mania, probably WrestleMania for these two. I think you could put that, you could stretch it out that far. I know it seems like it's a half a year away. It is a half year away, but if you take kind of a month off, or somebody gets a quote unquote injury, you can eat up time that way. Ray versus Dominick at WrestleMania, it would be a hell of a matchup. Not just from in-ring, but of course the story, which would be the most important part. So that's what I think they're doing. If they rush the story, I'll be disappointed. There's just a lot you can do. I mean, hell, why not even bring Vicky Guerrero back? I think you could bring Vicky Guerrero back into this and speak on behalf of Eddie and talk about, try to talk some sense into Dominick, right? I think she could. She could say, hey, Dominick, I remember with you as a child, and just basically tell stories about Dominick and Eddie backstage. There's a lot you can do. And I'm really excited for it. I mean, I have no idea if Vicky Guerrero is interested or what her contractual status is. I thought she was with... Was she with AEW for a hot minute? I got to check, but you could bring Vicky Guerrero in. I think that would be a nice touch. And they can really make this deep. So I'm excited for this. I like being angry going off the air. Judgment Day isn't a group I feel like they're cool and I want to cheer for them. They're traditional heels. They're easy to dislike. Their message is a little bit wonky. I mean, I still don't understand what the group is for. It was formed and disbanded so quickly and then off the air, and Edge gets kicked out. It was weird. That I'd like them to kind of straighten themselves out on the message of what they are, who they are. But that's just kind of, I don't know. It's not fundamentally broken because the story is so good. But I think the group needs a little bit of work in terms of their mission. But I like this. So I wanted to start off with a positive. Being angry at the end of Raw for 2 weeks in a row and having the Judgment Day get heat on them 2 weeks in a row is something WWE has not done very often in the past. And Triple H clearly is bringing back the fundamentals of pro wrestling, which is, you can go off the air with people angry. It's not all about giving them the payoff they want. It's not. So good job there. I have no complaints from anybody involved in any of this. Nothing. I think everybody's playing their part very well. And yeah, so speaking though of heels that are cool that you shouldn't be cheering for, Seth Rollins. So let's talk about Seth Rollins for a second. Seth Rollins is a guy right now that feels like he has a path. That's good, right? He's got a path. He's got at least he's trying to formulate his own path. Every time he tries to turn his attention to the Universal or the Undisputed Championship, somebody gets in his way, and Riddle has for the last several weeks because Riddle won't let this go. And my point is, Seth actually has a path right now. He doesn't feel like a lost puppy anymore. The only problem I have with Seth, and I actually don't even know if this is a problem to most people, is that he's a heel that gets cheered and people sing along and finish his sentences. That's not heel to me. Now, it's almost like Seth has to turn heel every time he gets on the microphone because his song is sung, people do sing along with his music. And when he comes out, he's dancing. He's just entertaining. And I don't want to feel that if you're a heel. I should hate you. And Seth has to work every single time he gets on the microphone every week he has to like nail the hometown sports teams, or he has to just run down the audience in general. He has to just take those cheers every time and turn them to boos. And I don't know what to make of this. Is this because people actually want Seth to turn babyface and they truly don't dislike him? Is it that he is a heel, but people just superficially like singing along to his music and finishing his sentences? You shouldn't want to do sing along with a heel. I mean, that's kind of self-evident, but apparently not. So, and again, I don't know if this is a complaint or not, because people are reacting and people are making noise, which is the old cop-out in WWE. Even if you are babyface and they boo you, well, they're still cheering or they're still making noise, which is a whole load of BS to me. But I don't know if is this a problem for you guys, or is this only a kind of a scenario for me that I don't know what to do with? Because I like Seth as a heel. We've seen the babyface Seth before, and it hasn't been good. Remember Brock Lesnar? What was it, WrestleMania 33? No, 34? When Seth, might have been, I'm off on my years, when Seth captured the championship from Brock Lesnar, and everybody, was kind of like, this doesn't really work with you as a babyface. It didn't feel authentic. He was a sniveling, whiny heel that all of a sudden we're supposed to cheer for. Remember how that whole thing didn't work? And now he's been heel since he turned. Remember he joined AOP? He was the guy in the back of the truck. Remember that awesome storyline that got derailed? Since that moment a few years ago, he's been a heel. He's been heel about 90% of his career. And it's worked, generally speaking. He's gone through some iterations of the Messiah and Burn It Down and the corporate choice or with not the corporation. I was going to say the authority. And so, and now he's this kind of mixture of a Messiah, but really this visionary, a revolutionary, whatever the hell that means. Like, what exactly is that? What is a revolutionary? What is a visionary? And how exactly does that apply? I mean, of course, these are questions we're not supposed to ask and get real answers to. But I guess Seth has landed on a version of himself that works. And it does. And he's such a great in-ring wrestler. And he is a great promo. I just don't know where this lands him. And as he continues to try to head for Roman Reigns, which is every time he's about to blurt it out, he gets cut off. But eventually he will. I think he'll beat Riddle at Extreme Rules, and then he'll finally put his sights and set his sights on Roman Reigns. We won't hear that until the Monday Night Raw after Extreme Rules. So what was it? October 9th or 10th, whatever that Monday Night Raw is. That's probably when we'll finally hear Seth Rollins give the proclamation that he's coming for Roman Reigns. And so until then, it's going to be Riddle and Rollins part 2, which is fine because they put on excellent matches and, no problem there. So my point is, though, when we get to that matchup at Survivor Series with Seth and Roman, which is, I think, like a 95% chance of where they're going, I really believe that Seth could be truly the babyface there. How can he not be? Even last year he was, when he was still a hot heel. You put him in this year against Roman, against a guy that people just want to see drop the belt so we can move on with our lives? Yeah, I mean, there's no way Seth doesn't get cheered there. But I don't know if that's a long-lasting turn, if it's just a one-night thing for just the no other reason other than to just have a championship, the championships off of Roman. And, Seth Rollins is a guy that's believable to do it. He could carry the championships well. He hasn't held a championship in how many freaking months or years? It's really embarrassing. Same with Kevin Owens. And, oh, yeah, we're going to talk about him. Oh, God. But to wrap this up with Kevin Owens, or rather Seth Rollins, him and Riddle brawl on Raw. Riddle doesn't say anything except just bro. And he ends up attacking Rollins, and Rollins is just kind of retaliating, but just trying to get away from him. Like, I'm done with this. And then Riddle gets confronted by the Judgment Day, and then Riddle has a match with Finn Balor. But that's what I want to say about Finn, or rather Seth. Does this bother you with Seth? And what do you think's going on there? Do you think he could truly be the one to take it off of Roman? There's a lot of poetry there. I have to say, there's a lot of story there. And let me know what you guys think. So, all right. But speaking of Riddle, we did get a matchup here with Finn Balor. He defeated Matt Riddle after pinning him with a coup de grace. Riddle interrupted, again, a Seth Rollins promo. And then Rollins attacked Riddle after the match, hitting him with a stomp to lay him out. So, all right, let's see here. I already talked about Edge and Dominic. The Women's Tag Team Championship. Dakota Kai and Io Sky take on Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah. The championships change hands here. Dakota Kai and Io Sky are your new Women's Tag Team Champions. And Damage Control now has gold. I like how they have a name. I was waiting for a name. It took them a few weeks, but they got it. I like it. And they were able to, I'm reading a description here, they're able to isolate, and with the help of Bayley, a little help from Bayley, it allowed Kai to pin Aaliyah to capture the belts. So if you're going to have this team lose, of course, Raquel Rodriguez isn't going to take a loss. Aaliyah is, I mean, she's just kind of like the sidekick, if you will. So that makes sense. I don't want that team to break up, though. I think Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah are a nice tag team. They have some chemistry, and the women's tag team division needs to stay a division. After a team loses, doesn't mean they all need to break up. The division can't afford that, because we saw what happened with the last iteration of the women's tag team division. It wasn't a division. It was just the champions and everyone else that didn't exist. Like, there were champions who they were unopposed. There was literally no one else in the division. So in order to create a division, you have to keep teams together even if they lose the belts. You can't have everyone just turn on each other every time they lose the championship. So I hope that's the case here. I hope Rodriguez and Aaliyah stay together for a while. But Dakota Kai and Io Sky beat the champions. They become champions. And I like the nice touch here of the fireworks going off. Anybody else notice that? Almost like that's what they do at pay-per-views for Roman Reigns when he's holding up the championship for the last 24 months. It was a nice touch. I didn't expect that, but it added a little something too, a little bit of spice to that moment, a little bit of importance, a little bit of remembrance to that moment of having those two win the belts. When is the last time outside of the introduction to Raw that you saw saw fireworks going off for anybody, not much less the women's tag team division? I mean, I know it's a small thing, but it was important to me. And I'm like, wow, that was kind of cool. Like, WWE's telling you this is a big moment. And I'm like, okay, I'm buying into it. Let's go. So good. I have no problem with this at all. I don't care that it was a short run. I think Dakota Kai and Io Sky were probably destined to have these belts anyway. Now Bayley seems to be setting her sights a little bit on Bianca, while not explicitly saying to Bianca that I want you one-on-one. Things are starting to narrow down a bit, because we had a Raw Women's Championship match with Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville, and the match was good, by the way. I mean, Sonya Deville's she's a good wrestler. I think underrated to most, especially on the microphone. And Bayley came out to make it clear after Bianca Belair beat her clean, by the way. Bianca Belair hit the, what's her move called? I can't think of it right now. She hit her finish on Sonya Deville, the KOD. And then we had Bayley come out solo. And I'm like, here we go. Finally. Okay, let's just get to it. And Bayley came out and said that she has her eyes on becoming the Raw Women's Champion as the next part of Damage Control's takeover of the division. And then Damage Control attacked Belair before Asuka and Alexa Bliss made the save. And Belair hit Bayley with a spine buster, and that's all she got. So that was good. I'm glad she didn't hit a KOD. That's the money move. That's what you want to see. You want to see the top heel get a finish hit on them, and they didn't. That was nice. This is all just stuff that Triple H he seems just kind of an old school mind, and I'm loving this. And so Bianca Belair and Bayley are not official yet. Of course, October 8th is when Extreme Rules takes place. That's still 3.5 weeks away. There's still time. And I do believe that will be their first match of probably 3 or more. And I have no problem with this. It's also nice to see Alexa Bliss and Asuka come out. They were kind of the forgotten team. But it does look like there's at least a team that they could face. I would imagine that it's going to be Asuka and Alexa Bliss versus Io Sky and Dakota Kai for the Women's Tag Team Championship at Extreme Rules. And then it's also going to be Bianca Belair versus Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship. That's my guess on the women's side of things. So no problem there. The only issue that I did have, when you thought you were going to get away with this squeaky clean without me complaining, is Sonya Deville getting a women's championship matchup, a Raw Women's Championship matchup. Now, there's just so much here that I should just put my logic aside and throw out my hands, but I'm too small of a person to do that, right? So, putting aside the preposterousness that Sonya Deville is there by chance, and the fact that she's a SmackDown competitor that no one explains anymore. I told you this many months ago. They gave up on even explaining why members of the brand that they were drafted to are on the opposite brand without explanation. They just stopped doing that. They just didn't even bother anymore. They just so, oh, it's from SmackDown, it's so-and-so. It's like, well, why are they here? How are they here? You know, like, why have a draft? Like, what are we doing? So not only that, you put even that aside, which is egregious in and of itself, but how Sonya Deville, as a SmackDown competitor, is able to compete for a brand-specific championship is beyond me. And why Sonya was there, did she have some kind of premonition that Bianca was going to issue an open challenge in which she could come out instantly? I mean, there's just so many things, and I know I'm not trying to ruin it for anybody, but just like, come on, let's tighten this up here. It's clearly that when they do this, it's clear that they just have run out of competitors for the brand that person's on, and so they have to bring in the other brand, and they don't bother explaining, and it is what it is there. But you know, it made no sense, because what if Sonya won? Then what? Does she transfer to Raw? Does she go to SmackDown with the Raw Women's Championship? How can that happen? Because it's a brand-specific championship. You can't bring a brand-specific championship over to the other brand. It's the point of the brand-specific championship. So it just, there's just so many things there. I mean, you knew Sonya wasn't going to win. I mean, it was never a thing that she was ever in jeopardy of, Bianca was ever in jeopardy of dropping it to Sonya. But still, like, can we stop insulting fans' intelligence here? At least those that care. I mean, it's not that fans, I think, are stupid in general. Most just don't care, and they just want the best matchup and all that. I'm a big believer of abiding by brand rules, because it makes it that much more special when you can have a co-branded pay-per-view and you can think of, you know, in two separate worlds of who could face who, and it creates dream matches. Instead, you just have this mishmash of like, yeah, well, I know there's two brands, but really anybody could show up. It's like, well, then you don't have a brand split. You don't have a brand split. You have a united roster is what you have. You have a roster that on paper says there's a brand split, but in reality, for the purpose of storyline and when convenient, we just bring people over. And it just doesn't matter. And fans don't care. But I do. So, all right. So, let's see here. We've got Omas taking on Cash Marazzi and Ryan Toombs with a choke bomb. Omas is back to just being the resident giant that doesn't say much, roars like Braun Strowman, and maybe that's a matchup, by the way, they're looking at. Who knows? Braun Strowman versus Omas. Maybe it'll just be a roar off. Maybe like instead of actually having a match or an arm wrestling match or something, maybe they'll just both stand there and they'll have like a decibel reader, and whoever can roar the loudest is the winner. I mean, literally, maybe that's what they'll do, because they have very similar facials and all that. But anyway, I'm sure they're actually going to get to that match. This was nothing more than a squash, as always, for Omas as of late. After WrestleMania with Bobby Lashley, he just kind of went back to where he started, and that's just squash matches. I mean, I don't have much to say about this. They're just maybe giving Omas ring time. I don't think he's on the verge of getting fired or anything, but I think that they just don't believe he's ready, or they don't have anything for him right now, but they're keeping him fresh in the minds of fans, and that's okay. If you like squash matches, then cool. Dexter Lumis was shown inside the Miz's house after Miz ended an interview kicking out the WWE crew. So, oh boy. Yeah. Dexter Lumis with one of the best stares of all time. Best just memes ready to be produced of all time. And it's just great stuff. Big stuff. All right. Let's see here. So, we got next week, by the way, a United States Championship match of Bobby Lashley versus the visionary Seth Rollins. This came after they had an altercation backstage. Bobby Lashley looks like he just walked out of a library. I'm like, dude, I know he's maybe trying to change his look up and all that. It's like, he looks weird with glasses. I'm like, Bobby Lashley, what? I don't know. I kind of laughed. I laughed at that. But that'll be a nice matchup with Seth and Bobby. No problem there. I'm sure that Bobby will retain because Seth will have Riddle interfere, and that'll further their storyline. I mean, you can see this coming a mile away. But I do appreciate that they've told us a big matchup happening for next week, and that there's a small chance that Rollins could actually beat Bobby. But Bobby's also been kind of cast into the shadows after becoming United States champion. They've done some nice video packages for the championship, and that was really, really just desperately needed. But for Bobby himself, he hasn't got a lot going on right now. So for them to put a championship match on next week, while I'm not a fan of free TV championship matchups, I think they've kind of normalized it where people are just numb to it. I still don't like it, but it creates intrigue for next week, and it's fun. You know, like this can't not be a good match, right? But you can see it a mile away that Riddle's going to get himself involved and also cost Rollins the match. There's just no two ways about it, which will enrage Rollins enough to accept Riddle's challenge for a rematch. And then we get to the highlight of Monday Night Raw. The highlight of Raw that has become a perpetual highlight of Raw. Kevin Owens coming out, interrupting Theory, who couldn't even get a word out. Kevin Owens comes out, interrupts Theory, and cuts one of the best promos he's cut in his career on Theory. Because I think a lot of it was based in truth. A lot of it, I think, actually pissed off Theory. Austin Theory. And the biggest part of this, to me, the most memorable part, for me, let me know what you guys think. What's the most memorable part or impactful, powerful part of the promo was Kevin Owens mentioning how there are so many guys that look like him that come and go. Hundreds of them. But how many of them look like me and stay here to become the face of the company? Now, Kevin Owens isn't the face of the company, but he's much more a part of the company than Theory is. Granted, he's been there a lot longer. But that is something that is just unbelievably true. That probably pissed off Theory. And the thing that Kevin Owens was saying, or rather that Theory was trying to say, is you'll never look like me. And Kevin probably should have said, while I just said it was one of the best promos, I thought he was going to say, I don't need to. I don't want to look like you. And the fact that the people that look like you are a dime a dozen that come through here, get elevated, and then fizzle out, it's so true. It's something that does happen so often that it's kind of crazy that he was able to or allowed to say that on air. It's so clear that Kevin has no muzzle. It's very clear that Kevin Owens has nobody outside of just general guidelines of TV PG, that nobody's muzzling him. Nobody's telling him what to say. It's just so great to hear Kevin Owens unleash. And it's also kind of crazy just thinking a few months ago, he was the top heel in the company facing Stone Cold Steve Austin at the main event of night 1 in WrestleMania. So just brilliant. I mean, it was just so well done. They brawled for a while, and it ended up with Theory getting a broken nose. It looked like a broken nose. It could have been a busted lip, something. And Owens said that that breaking Theory's nose was, quote, just the beginning. He told Theory to check his ego at the door and prove he is the man he claims to be. He basically gave Austin Theory a cheat code on how to succeed, and Theory didn't want anything to do with it, and then they just ended up brawling, which clearly is going to end up in a match between these two at Extreme Rules. There's no two ways about it. These two are going to face each other at Extreme Rules, and it's going to be fun. And that may be the very last time that we have Kevin Owens at a singles match for a while, because I believe he'll move over to the feud with the Bloodline and helping Sami Zayn, and Sami's conflicted but ultimately sides with Kevin. I know I'm 4 steps ahead, but I think that's what's going to happen. But Austin Theory and Kevin Owens is going to be a lot of fun for at least the next few weeks rolling into Extreme Rules. Kevin Owens is showing what he could have been all along. It's great. So let me know what you guys think about that. Was that for you the segment of the night? I'm guessing for a good chunk of you it was. Johnny Gargano, or Gargano, take your pronunciation pick, defeats Chad Gable with a slingshot DDT, and then after the match, Otis tried to attack Gargano, but he got a super kick for his troubles, and then Gargano rolled out of the ring for the escape, and then Austin Theory attacked Gargano from behind, dropping him with a shot from the briefcase. So we still have Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory, but we also have Kevin Owens and Austin Theory. I can't see this being a triple threat. I mean, unless he somehow was coerced into putting the briefcase on the line. It's a triple threat for nothing other than pride. But Gargano and Owens and Theory are kind of locked in this triangle. And I'd imagine it was going to be Theory and Kevin Owens at the next pay-per-view. But again, Gargano is also kind of in the mix here. So we'll have to see what comes of that. But overall, I think another solid Monday Night Raw. A solid Monday Night Raw, memorable moments. Championship changes hands. We get a heel heat. We get reminded of what heel heat can be and the value of heel heat. We get a Kevin Owens A+ promo that's starting to become a weekly thing. And I think it's good. So far, so good. Dominick ends up speaking in a way that's safe and not in front of a live crowd, and he's able to deliver his message effectively. Rhea Ripley whispering in his ear, by the way, was a lot of fun because Rhea Ripley's playing her part very well. I think she's kind of getting lost in this whole thing in terms of just what people aren't really talking too much about her, but she's the one who's clearly brainwashing Dominick, which is a lot of fun to watch. And Dominick in his scowl face, it was a little bit overacted with the snarl with his lip that he did too many times. But overall, this is really well done and smart by WWE to not put him in front of a live crowd and hope that he cuts a promo of this magnitude. You gotta, especially his first time. The first time you turn heel and you give that explanation is the most important. And they didn't want to have Dominick out there flailing about or forgetting his lines. I don't blame him. I don't blame WWE. It's a smart way to do this. I just have no complaints about any of this. So cool. Good stuff. But that concludes our Monday Night Raw review. If you guys want to join us over on the ad-free side of things, you can do that at patreon.com/WWE podcast. You can join us there for $1 a month, or on Apple Podcasts. There's an ad-free button right on our page. Ad-free for 99 cents a month or $10 for the entire year. I'd encourage you to do that because it gives you 2 months for free for ad-free everything. So I'll also be dropping, hopefully tomorrow, I'm going to try, although Wednesdays are crazy busy for me with podcasting and video production for the video show that I do on the DuPont Network. Go sign up, by the way, DuPontNow.com for free. You can see our show every Saturday at 8. But we do a video there, or I do a video recording tomorrow. But I wanted to let you guys know for the patrons, I will be hopefully recording a what is it called? After Dark show. I haven't done an After Dark show in quite a while. I've got one coming for you tomorrow. But I'm going out drinking tonight, so hopefully I'm not too hungover. Yeah, I know I just threw that in. But okay. Thanks everybody for listening, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.